Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to be reviewing Valkyrie's new uniform from Thor: Love and Thunder. But first, I want to take you on the wild ride that was Canada's internet outage yesterday for nearly 24 hours. So this actually started, like I said, almost 24 hours ago. I woke up to no internet, no cell phone service, because unfortunately, there is a monopoly where just a couple of businesses in Canada, a couple of mega corporations control all of the internet services, all of the cell phone services, etc. And one of those services yesterday, Rogers, decided to shit its pants. And the ensuing outage basically lasted close to 24 hours. Now, for those of you that aren't going to pause this video and read through all this nonsense here, I have a very nice little tweet that perfectly summarizes what happened. And this was mid outage. This wasn't at the beginning or at the end. Canada remains in the midst of a major internet and telecommunications outage 12 hours after a disruption to the Rogers network. The network is so big because Canada gives zero Fs about, competitive advantage or anything like that, consumer benefit. That one company represented 25%. That's right, 25% of the entire network. And when I say network, I'm not just talking about internet. I'm talking about internet. I'm talking about phones. I'm talking about Interac, like debit machines. I'm talking about banking and e-transfers. Government services were affected. You literally couldn't do most things that involved any sort of digital transaction. It was absolutely absurd. There were hundreds of people swarming outside Starbucks and Tim Hortons, which is Canada's version of Starbucks. Not anymore, but yeah, kind of. Just to get free Wi-Fi. That's how bad it was. And the outage lasted literally nearly 24 hours. So, yeah. This country is a hilarious joke sometimes. And, yeah, that's why I uploaded that video yesterday. That was supposed to be my second video of the day. Thank you to everybody who watched and everything. Thank you to Julian. But yeah, let's get on with actual content now that I can make content. And actually, the next thing I need to do today is go and change my cell phone plan so that this never happens again. Because unfortunately, I had double dipped, and I was on Rogers for internet, and I was on Fido for my phone line, which is owned by Rogers. So yeah. It was an interesting day yesterday. I went back to the nomadic times. I literally couldn't do anything that involved a piece of technology, so I just sat down and read books, manga to be exact. But yeah, it was a very interesting day. So anyways, back plugged into the digital world, Ready Player One. Let's do this. So Valkyrie's new uniform looks really good and performs very well for her, but I think what a lot of people are going to be asking is it an upgrade for supports? So I want to answer this question very early on in the video. No. If you only plan on using Valkyrie as a support, then you can very well keep this uniform and save your crystals, because the upgrade that she gets as a support specifically is very minimal. If you look here with this uniform, she gives 30% ignore dodge, 50% increased damage to villains, and 25 damage reduction from villains. So 30, 50, 25. That 30, 50, 25 goes up by exactly 10% spread across the first two effects. So the ignore dodge goes up from 30 to 35%, the damage goes up from 50 to 55%, and then the damage reduction stays the same. So would you spend 1,000 crystals for an extra 5% ignore dodge and 5% damage to villains on one of your world boss clears? No, you definitely wouldn't. The only way you would, again, is if you're going to use Valkyrie outside of a support. If you're going to switch to her and actually use her for damage, whether it's for world boss, ABX, dispatch farming, whatever. There are reasons to use Valkyrie. I'm not saying you shouldn't use Valkyrie beyond a support type. I'm just saying I know there are some players out there who only want to use her as a support and nothing else. And in that case, the devs did not make a compelling argument for why you should upgrade to this uniform. I don't necessarily know if they should have anyways, because it might have made her too strong of a support, but that's a whole other conversation. I will cover the uniform options, however, for those of you who maybe have this uniform but don't have any of these options, as most of them are quite dated by now, besides maybe White Fox and Jean Grey. But for the new Valkyrie, we have the WandaVision Vision, we have new Gambit, we have new Ebony Maw, Infinity Ultron, and Wave. So these are all good uniforms. Like, these are all top tier uniforms. That's a great support uniform. This is an amazing rework for Ultron that's kind of dated now, but it's still the best rework for Gambit. And then again, this one is good too. So she has very, very good optionals. I did want to point that out. But what I want to point out more so than that is the reworks that they made to Valkyrie as a character. Because if you want to use her for damage, she is way, way, way better than before. And we'll start with the uniform option, the uniform effect, excuse me, because from the previous uniform, she only has 25 skill damage, bonus damage. That's it. It's crazy. Because on top of gaining more skill damage, bonus damage, they also gave her 30% ignore dodge and 30% damage reduction. On top of that, and I'll show you guys in skill preview before we go into a little bit of content here, they made it so that her 6th skill, and this is only for her, it's a little bit confusing because there are other people in this skill like Heimdall, you cannot, and Sif, you can't instant cancel their 6th skills, but you can instant cancel her 6th skill. You can literally instant cancel it right away and it will still work. And just to give you guys a brief showcase of why that's important, not only is it her 6th skill, but you absolutely 100% cannot do that with the old uniform. If you instant cancel her old uniform 6th skill, unless they changed it for all her uniforms, but I doubt it, as you can see there, they appear and then they disappear. If you instant cancel, they show up for 1 slash and then they dip. So this is a huge change, but that's not the only change that they made. They also made her 5th skill instantly cancelable. Now you can also hold on to it for a little bit longer to get a few more hits, and it's a really gorgeous skill with a really cute sound effect of horses, but you can absolutely instant cancel it. Look at that, instant cancel 6 and 5, and you get this chaos of laser beams going in both vertical and horizontal directions. It's absolutely gorgeous. So a rotation that would be very easy and very effective would be 3 cancel 6, cancel 5, cancel 4. So you start with the 3 to get the accumulation, and then you just go ham. So because you can cancel all of these skills now, and then you could splash in 2 at the beginning or at the end, right? Because you have so many cancelable skills now, that makes Valkyrie very proc friendly, very proc friendly. However, I think that's not going to be where the majority of people use her if they're going to use her as a damage dealer, because she's probably the strongest or tied for the strongest combat female hero now. So a lot of people are going to use her for ABX, or they're going to continue using her for dispatch as a support for their main DPS, whether it's level 80 Iron Man or level 80 Thor. So they're going to keep the rage on her if they have it. But if you don't have this previous uniform and you don't have a rage on her, it would be a pretty decent investment to pick up the new uniform and slap an energy CTP on her, or just a damage proc obelisk with like ignore dodge or crit damage or something like that, because I think she will play quite well with that situation, because she can proc so easily. And I'll show you here, we're going to go to stage 29 of Mephisto, which is the combat stage that we normally reserve for Shang-Chi and other really strong combat types, Blade, Moon Knight level 80, and she can actually do it, which is quite cool. So let's check it out. Again, I know a lot of people aren't going to be using Valkyrie for, for offensive purposes, but her value is, is still there as a support type, but now you're going to get that additional value. So I think that's quite nice. What I do, even though I said you can do an instant cancel on 6, is I delay cancel, 5. I do a delay cancel on 5 until the rage proc activates thereabouts. In this case, it didn't activate at all, which is super cool. But yeah, that's basically the one tweak I make to the rotation, just so that I get a little bit of extra damage on 5, because if you delay it a little bit, then Valkyrie comes in on a horse as well, so you get the 1 extra horse, couple extra hits. It's not a ton of extra hits, but it is something. So you can definitely add that to your arsenal. There are also some rotations with Sif, or with Valkyrie, I don't know if I called her Sif by accident, where you start with the 2nd skill until she throws the sword. But as you can see here, 1 minute in and we're into the next phase. That, in my opinion, is pretty dope. We do have some rage proc issues, just because she doesn't have guaranteed crit rate. But she should increase her power level once we do get someone like Coulson around to offer guaranteed crit rate to characters that don't have it. And then again, I think this is with a rage CTP, and remember, even with max, like even with high pierce, energy still beats rage for most content for most characters. She's also very fast in the movement speed department, which is quite nice. But because because energy beats rage with Pierce for World Boss Legend, she's doing this, and she could do this even faster. Right? She could probably do this faster with an obelisk, with like a 200 proc obelisk, just because of how easy it is to proc. And then she could do it even faster than that with an energy, because she gives herself chain hit damage when she does a bleed skill, and then you get an extra chain hit damage synergy from the energy itself. Now, survivability is a little bit of an issue. You do need to use the second skill in between because of the bleed effect that it has to trigger her passive effect. As you can see there, I'm popping off for about 2,000 or 2,000 or 20,000 heal every time. So you do want to use this. You can use the second skill or the third skill, but you definitely want to use one of those in your arsenal to get that heal in order to keep her topped up, kind of thing. But yeah, she cruises through this. The heal actually sort of, it's different amounts, I'm realizing now. Sometimes it's 20,000, sometimes it's 17,000. I wonder why that is. Okay, I'm playing a little risky here because he's using these purple abilities. Oh, the other thing I really like about her that I forgot to mention, you could actually use the movement on some of her skills to dodge Mephisto's slams, but you'd have to become very intimate with her playstyle. But one thing I love, and I always try to mention this about characters because it's a very subtle quality of life thing for some characters that other characters don't have, and it is that her fifth skill, targeting, is insanely far-reaching, which is, I love it. It means she's going to play better on autoplay for things like dispatch because she won't get caught in animations far away from enemies after she's killed the ones around her, just slashing at the air. But check this out. I'm so far away, so you can actually open with 5 if you want. I'm not saying you should, but you can open with 5 as a gap closer because you can literally target the enemy from across the arena, from like halfway across the arena, and you can trigger the fifth skill. It's got such a long range. It's gorgeous. So we actually had our proc delayed there. But yeah, she finishes this, I would say, pretty comfortably with about a minute left here. Again, we would have done this a little bit faster had our procs been a little bit more consistent. But yeah, there's no way she was doing this before. Not at all. Like, not even close. The old uniform would have failed on the second phase, probably. The damage increase for Valkyrie specifically is quite large. It's like at least 50% more damage. It's very, very good. However, I do know there are people watching this going, Alex, I'm never going to play Valkyrie. I'm just going to use her as a support. So it's all well and cool that she can do Mephisto 29 now, and she could probably go higher, to be honest, because Mephisto's next stage after 29 is female hero again, right? So you could literally reuse this entire team besides Taskmaster, and you could just sub him out for White Fox or Wave or whoever, or you could use Crescent Lead or what have you. So you can continue climbing with these support females who now have sort of their own damage. So this definitely feels like a Sif-esque rework offensively, except that she was already a really good support, whereas Sif wasn't a good support from the beginning until she got her newest uniform. So yeah, that is the review for Valkyrie. I think a lot of things are going to stay the same for most players, but I really wanted to highlight how much stronger she is for PvE, because it's honestly like night and day. So if you're planning on using her for any sort of PvE action, I would say consider this uniform, especially if you're going to manually play her, because maybe, you know, you're going to get this one for ABX, or you're going to get this one for whatever reason, and then you don't necessarily have to, like, for example, again, it depends on your account, it depends on what you're doing. You could skip having to tier 3 a character like Shang-Chi if you're trying to climb World Boss Legend, because, and again, it just depends on what your account is doing and what you, like, not that Shang-Chi is a bad investment or whatever, but you could, you know, from here, right, you could go and use Sif and Valkyrie, and then you could just continue using them. So I do see the value there, and I do think it's quite cool. But on the other hand, I do recognize that even though she got a big bump herself, she's still behind stronger combat types. Like I said, Cull Obsidian, Shang-Chi, Blade, Moon Knight, and most of her value comes from ABX. and then her support features for things like ABX, squad battle, dispatch, dimension mission farming, and stuff like that, in which case 5% is probably not worth 1,000 crystals, but again, it's your decision, not mine. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully no more outages, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.